Type that in. Where are you calling in from and anything else you wanted to share? So for me, was free falling on the way into work this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and add that here. I love a classic Tom Petty. And it's Monday morning for me. If you're just joining us, welcome. We're doing a warm opener in the chat. I'll kind of walk you through how you would do that. If you click that link that's in the chat, just to get a sense of who's here today, this morning, this afternoon, wherever times you're calling in from, you'll click on that link that's in the chat. You'll click on this plus post button here in the corner. Invite you to add your name here. If you'd like to add a song that you listened to most recently, you could either just type that in, or if you wanted to actually add a link and create a playlist for us, you could click on the Spotify icon here, add a YouTube link, etc., and let us know where you're calling in from. We'll give folks a couple of moments to kind of trickle in here. I've added that into the chat. Welcome. If you're just joining, we have a warm opener invitation in the chat. Amazing. Thanks, Jennifer, for adding that in from Tyler, Texas. Awesome. Thanks, Erica from Omaha, Nebraska, for adding that in. If you're just joining, I have a bit of a warm opener invitation in the chat for you. If you click on that plus post sign, it's going to invite you to add your name and where you're calling in from today, and a song that you've listened to most recently or an artist who's on your mind. So good to have you all here this Monday. Awesome. Thanks, Lee, Lay, however you say your name, from White Salmon. Thanks, Iona from Oakland for sharing. Thanks, Ben from Canton, New York. Amazing. Thanks, Jess. Love it. We're populating this kind of playlist of how we're doing, how we're feeling today. Welcome if you're just joining. We have a warm opener invitation in the chat. You'll see folks kind of shared on my screen here too are writing in with where we're all calling in from and a song that's kind of we've listened to recently or a musical artist. I'll invite you to come on in here. You'll click on that plus post sign in the lower right hand corner of your screen here. And just as you'll see, like Maggie has done or Rachel has done, you can add a post, click on that post. You could add your name, add a song you listened to most recently. You could type that out, or you could add a link if you'd like for us, share where you're calling in from, and then anything else you'd like to share today. All right. I'll keep posting that into the chat. If folks are joining, please do continue to add into that warm opener. Thanks for those who did add that in. I think it's just fun to kind of have a little way to get a sense of who's in our virtual spaces. I'm so excited to be here and learning with you all today. As you might have already guessed from kind of the way this started, this is definitely interactive. I believe in that principle of kind of equitable learning is interactive learning. And so there'll be many opportunities today where I will ask you all to kind of share. That could be a chat, that could be unmuting, etc. Really invite folks to share. Amazing. Thanks to them for adding that. Thanks, Barbara, for adding that in into the space here. So excited to be here and learning with you all today. I will share a link also to all these resources here in a moment. Let me actually for you right now. It's also this link right here. Full link here is going to be in the chat, or you could use that padlet.link/Peralta26. All of the resources from today are accessible for you now and afterwards. And I'll make sure to get a link to these also to our conference organizers. Thanks to them for being here with us and making this space possible to learn together. Go back to that in a second. Oh, yeah, that's formatting is a little bit odd here, but I wanted to give you a sense of kind of what to expect today. My goal is really for you to leave with a couple of ideas for how you can kind of promote student engagement, connection, and choice as the pillars of equity from kind of my professional experience through this particular tool called Padlet, which we'll be using. But really, the focus is on how could you create that connection, that engagement, that choice via virtual learning. And this just happens to be one of many tools that can work for that approach for you. What our agenda will look like for that. This kind of ease in an intro connecting time here. We'll do a little bit more kind of know you here. we'll go through a kind of a mini adult learning sequence that kind of highlights these kind of three pieces of equity, these kind of connection, engagement, choice. And then I'll share a couple of resources that you can take away if you're curious to learn more about this particular tool and ask you to really kind of share any approaches that you build into your instruction or your facilitated learning around those pieces of equity. And again, I'm going to resources into the chat. If it's helpful for you, you're welcome to follow along kind of on your own screen. If you prefer to kind of see where I am, that's great as well. Choosing a little bit of your own adventure for where you are this Monday. I'm going to invite us to do a little bit of sharing. We're kind of continuing on this music theme. I'm not sure why this came up to me, but I think it's kind of a fun way to connect with the group from all over the country and or world. Ooh, look at that. I love it. Already got people kind of in here. Gonna get a sense of where people feel about a couple of different questions. And this is like the connection part of our section here. Whether you love something or hate something. And here's or maybe it's in between. Maybe you're feeling moderate about it. And I'll invite you to get there. I'll give you one, a direct link in the chat, but two, if you're like some of those folks who are already there, you can click on the session resources from today. And this, if you click on the Styles of Music sandbox, you're right there. But let me give folks a direct interactive link in the chat. If you click on that interactive link in the chat here, I'm going to invite you. I know, I think those post-its you actually, I made a mistake. I don't think you can move them, or maybe you can. I'm going to get rid of them because I think they're tempting, but they're not there. I made a mistake. So if you go on the right-hand side here, though, you'll see this toolbar. And if you click on your post-it, I invite you to click on a post-it note. It looks like a little sticky note with a little dog ear tag. Click on whatever color you'd like. And then add that post-it. Where do you feel? Are you electric guitar? You could add your name if you feel so comfortable, or you could have your initials, whatever. Do you love it? Do you hate it? And I'll invite you to add that to wherever you feel like, where are you on the spectrum here? Love it. I see people adding some sometimes, some descriptions. That's great as well. And if you're already like, okay, cool, I told you about the first one, you'll notice a couple of more kind of invitational questions here on the left-hand side as well. Classic rock, where are you on that spectrum? You could do the same thing, add your post-it note, add a text box, add an emoji if you wanted to. If you're feeling like, I just want to put in an emoji rather than my name, that's great as well. You could add it to wherever you fall in the spectrum here. Couple of different questions just to get a sense of where folks are. Music videos, do you like music videos over listening to music? Just a couple of fun intros. Nice. Depends on who's playing it. Thanks, Adoria. Nice to see some folks adding some emojis. Not a lot of Green Day love right yet, but maybe that'll change. Awesome. I see some folks also adding some different shapes. Thanks. It's Lee, Lay, however you say your name, adding shapes. You could also play with some of those on the side, get a sense of that, adding in how you feel about these different kind of musical genres or flavors, and just to get a sense of also who's in this space. And maybe you're starting to notice some other people who have some kind of similar music tastes to you or different music tastes from you. Taking about 30 more seconds in here to add any post-its, to add any emojis to get a sense and play with this tool too a little bit. So hopefully you're already starting to kind of imagine ways that you might be able to use this type of intro in a learning space that you're part of, just to get a sense of who people are, whether they're kind of in small groups, in person, in a whole group, synchronous class that's either online or, in person, or kind of in an asynchronous space, just a way to kind of get a sense of who's there and start to make some kind of quick connections with folks around us. I clearly chose, some kind of non-academic, more like social emotional learning kind of experiences for us today. And maybe you're starting to think about how this might work for kind of a more academic piece that you're also involved in. Because, that equity through line, great for that connection piece in learning about our students and kind of helping them connect with us and with each other, as well as kind of in making those personal connections with that content that we're teaching. As I said, we're going to kind of do a full-on adult learning sequence in a second here. I did want to give you some quick intros to a couple of the tools that we'll be using today, and there's one more we'll be playing with as well. Again, all music themed, just to kind of do something fun and light for this Monday together. I have linked all of these resources in today's kind of Padlet, which is also in the chat for you, and I'll re-add that again for folks. If questions come up as we're going through, please do feel free to drop them in the chat to unmute yourselves. We're a pretty small group I recognize today, so let me know what's coming up for you. All right, so diving into our adult learning experience here, I'm going to invite you for just a few minutes here. It can be so tempting to kind of be in this teacher mode where we're really thinking about, like, what would I do with my students next? Or how would I engage my virtual learners in this space? And 100% there will be time and space for that. And I'm going to invite you to engage in this really focusing kind of as a learner. So be thinking about, what does this feel like for you? How is it like as a learner? What are you learning? What is kind of this experience like from that lens? I think that can be really powerful, especially thinking about these equity conversations and kind of building that empathy out, and thinking about what some of the needs of our students might be and how we can engage them in different ways. I'm going to invite us now in learner mode to play a little bit of a game, a short game about kind of some artist and musical types. And I'm going to add this direct link into the chat here for you. Or again, I'm going to show you how you can find all of these resources from our landing page for today, from our resources, which are in the chat. If you go here into adult learning experience and you click on arcade game, artists and musical types, that will bring you right here, and I will also add a link into the chat, or you could use a phone if that's feeling good for you as well. You could just scan this with this QR code with a mobile device or whatever you have that you'd like to use today. And I'll invite you to play this quick matching game to get a sense of kind of what do you know so far about kind of different musicians, which of these are connecting to you, not connecting to you. We'll take a couple of minutes to play this kind of quick music history game, which some pros and some cons. I'll mute myself and invite you to play that game. Taking about 5 more seconds if you haven't yet. Wow, I see some folks knew all of that. Amazing. Thanks for engaging, folks. And you'll also see my name is definitely, I did not know all these. I've created the game, but don't know them. So I'm definitely in the camp of needing to brush up a little bit on this. So thank you for playing. Thanks for adding some kind of comments into the chat too. I love it. Getting a sense of what's coming up for folks. And in fact, I'm going to invite you to share a little bit further, kind of what came up for you in that experience. Whether maybe you were somebody who was like, I know exactly what's going on. I have this kind of strong musical history knowledge of what is here, or you're like, well, that doesn't quite reflect my musical knowledge and experiences, which is an equally valid kind of perspective on this. And so I'm going to invite us to do kind of a quick reflection now on what's coming up for you from that kind of quick matching game. And again, this will be in that same kind of tool, this digital whiteboard tool. Amazing. Eric Ossie is already there, which is awesome. And Corey's already there. If you are not yet there, let me invite you to join us in this sandbox tool here to share your takeaways from that experience. If you go to our resources from today, and under adult learning experience, you'll see sandbox, the questions you had after the game. I will also pop a direct link into the chat if that's easier for folks. I just get overwhelmed with all the links, so I like to have one kind of hub as well. And then you'll add on the right hand, on the right hand side, click on this post-it note. What came up for you? What came up? What was your experience like? Welcome, folks who are just joining. I've added a link into the chat for you with a game that we just played and we're reflecting on. Excited to have you here. If you click on that and try that out, you'll get a sense of what we're now posting about, our responses about. Give me about 30 more seconds to add any kind of thoughts and reflections to this. And then folks who are just joining, I'll also share with you the direct link for adding your thoughts as well. Mhm. You're still adding comments, that's great. You could also add an emoji or two if anything is resonating with you by clicking on that emoji icon in that toolbar, adding that to anybody who's you're like, oh yeah, I feel that too, or that's me too. Building a bit of that connection with folks in the virtual space here. Mhm. All right, I'm going to kind of gently move us forward to the next piece. I love these ideas about kind of what folks would want to do next. And I have one of these things here for you, but not all of them because I love it. We have so many different brains and so many different ways of thinking where we would want to go, like what that was like, what was missing, what we'd want to do about that. And so I'm going to actually invite us to do a tiny bit of kind of exploration here about, I just have a couple of musical artists curated here for you, these particular artists, if you wanted to learn more about these particular folks. But maybe you're like, well, actually, I have a different question I want to explore, and that's great as well. I'm going to give us a few minutes to do a bit. Oh, sorry about that. I went to the wrong space. Take a few minutes to explore some resources about these particular artists. If you are somebody who knew all of these, you might be in a space of, I want to think about what other genres weren't represented and kind of redesign this game or think about who my students would want to hear. That's great. I've also curated this Padlet here that has all of these artists and has a little bit about them, including a song you could hear a snippet of. Maybe you're familiar with the song, maybe it's not something that you know from this particular artist. And that's great as well. To access this resource, we'll have just a few minutes to do that, to kind of tickle some of our curiosity. To access this resource, it's in our resources from today, and I'm going to share this link for everybody so that folks who just joined also know how to get here. I thought I put that in here before. I did, but let me give you the full-on one. Link today. Whee! If you click on that link that's in the chat, or if you already have it, you'll see under Adult Learning Experience, there's this Padlet resources to explore about music right here under Adult Learning Experience. And if you click on that, that'll give you just this kind of quick space here to check out a little bit about these artists who came up in that game we played. You could add comments or emojis. You could add another post if you want. You are editors, I believe, on this. We'll take just a couple of minutes to let folks be curious and kind of run with your musical curiosity. And I will check in with you at 28 past the hour, wherever you are. 28 past the hour. So you got about 3 minutes to play. All right, gonna kind of gently bring you back from your musical exploration. Actually, curious for first, would anybody like to share as you're coming back anything that they learned or anything that you kind of curiosities that you either were able to kind of like lean into and you are more curious about, or things that you a question you had that you were able to figure out some information about from that couple of minutes? I love that question. So actually, not long at all, because okay, I wasn't gonna go there, but I'm gonna go there. Thank you, Dr. Barbara, for asking that question. I used a tool to curate these resources, and I'm actually going to show you how you can do this too. So, um, not to get too Padlet heavy, but I want to share we did have a cool thing released recently that allows you to AI create a set of tools. And so, how this would work and how I actually created this yesterday is I went into creating my own board and I had a conversation with this kind of our tool called Padlet Intelligence. And I basically said, can you put together a board for me that has these musicians? And we had kind of a quick back and forth about it for how to create this tool. I love tools. Fabulous. Thanks, Dr. Barbara. I love that. I'm going to actually, it's not yet, I didn't link this in our resources from today yet, but I'm going to update it. Let me add myself a note and I will update that so that it's resources that you have afterwards. You can come back to the page from today and I will add that into resources so you can find that really easily. Let me just jot that down. Let's see, PI resources, add to page. Great. Thank you, Dr. Barbara. Anybody else wanted to share any kind of like questions or comments that are coming up for them that came up in that experience? Could be tool related, could be kind of music related, anything is fair game. Okay. So hopefully you were able to kind of, again, lean into your curiosity in some ways, shape, or space. Or you might have been, I know, we always ask kind of folks to be in the space of like thinking kind of like in shifting from learner mode and teacher mode, but you may have already been like, ooh, what can I do with my students? And I get that as well. So I wanted to give us a quick moment. We went through, a pretty short learning experience here where we had a couple of things that we did together, a little bit of connection at the beginning, a little bit of engagement, that kind of arcade game that you played where you were connecting the different artists, kind of connecting where are we here? Why are we in the, I see, this is what happened. We're connecting the different artists. We had a little bit of a game that we played. We had some kind of connecting and learning about each other, whether that was kind of the intro, where we were from and what song is on our minds, or a little bit of that kind of game where we were moving around post-it notes about ourselves, about kind of our musical tastes and interests. And so for me, this really does connect these three kind of key pieces of equity. That how are we building that connection? How are we building that engagement? How are we building that choice? And in as many of those learning experiences as we can, right? That's kind of those three kind of pillars of equity for whoever our students are and however we're engaging them, again, synchronous or asynchronous. And so I wanted to actually invite you to take a quick moment here to think about how you experienced or didn't experience those kind of key pillars of equity so far in our time this morning. How did you or didn't you experience connection with other participants? How did you or did you not experience kind of engagement for your own learning? How did you or did you not experience choice? Take just kind of 30, 45 seconds. If you're somebody who likes to kind of like look around and space out, that's great. If you like to jot a thing down on a post-it note in a digital workspace, that's great. How did you experience these components of equity in our mini learning experience today? Okay. I'm going to share a little bit about kind of my perspective on this and then ask you all for a little bit about your perspective and how you build these in, kind of having us be here as a little bit of a professional learning community today to share with one another some of the best practices that we all use to create equity through these kind of three components of our teaching and facilitation. So from my perspective and kind of the work of many of our equity scholars, the connection piece, right, is really a way to visualize that similarity across learners, a way to kind of see our shared interests. And so today, a couple of ways that I was trying to kind of build that in for us was really that sandbox where we were moving around our post-its and seeing our names or emojis or representations of ourselves to kind of like see some clusters, some kind of different groups of folks, as well as that kind of warm opener coming in. I also wanted to share a couple of other kind of ideas and resources that can be really powerful for that. I love this Edutopia article. It's kind of more of a K-12 than higher education oriented, but it's really around the cold open and ways to kind of start with non-academic questions to kind of ease us into really the academic content. I totally recommend checking that out if you haven't heard of this idea yet. Kind of simple things like would you rather, great again to have a large group of people if you are doing kind of a larger lecture context or whatnot where you have hundreds of students in a space. A would you rather kind of a quick poll or even having people add post-its and visuals can be a great way to kind of just lighten up that space and create that quick connection amongst your students. One note, while I didn't have us do that today, polls is a feature that we do have in Padlet. I can also add a resource about that. Didn't do that. There's this engagement piece, right? How are we kind of building in these low stake activities to make sure every one of our learners has a chance to kind of feel like they're kind of connected to what's happening around and feel like it's engaged, like it's designed for kind of me as an individual learner in this space. And so whether those are questions or games or whatnot, I wanted to share a couple of ideas with you. Today, we did use this tool called Arcade. And if you click on this link, again, all of these resources, I'll reorient you to that page, are in our resources from today. You can create kind of custom games. That's one of our newest Padlet tools. You can either look through the existing library or you can create your own game, which a lot of people, especially higher ed, love. You've spent a lot of time kind of curating your curriculum and really designing your courses to reflect what you need your students to learn. And so this game can kind of do the work for you, or this engine can do the work for you of taking a tool, taking a video that you have that you've posted to your sections, or taking a resource or reading that you've really put together for your students. And then you can create a custom game that's 8, 10 questions, multiple choice, sorting, sequencing, etc. There's a few different structures here, which you can also poke around by looking through the library to get a sense of what's here. And then hopefully, like it was for folks today, and that kind of reflection as a space to help students get a sense of what they know or don't know. And maybe it's an invitation to learn more. So maybe it gives me a space to know where I can kind of strengthen my background knowledge or understanding. And then I have some tools to kind of help me get there. And that's great as well. I also wanted to share this idea of kind of sketchnoting. There's a bunch of awesome folks here. I've linked in one resource, but that can be a quick engagement too. That's really great and visual for learners of any age. And then choice. I chose to, ironically, but I chose one kind of idea of choice today, which was really kind of the like the, what were you learning exactly? So we had this kind of, provocación with like this game, and then it was what's coming up for you and what do you want to learn next? And then it's great, which thing do you want to focus on? But I think sometimes an underspoken about piece of this is really how are we allowing students to choose how they're learning the content too? And so today again was different artists to kind of dig into or different kind of musical avenues you could think about. But maybe it's the choice is really for me as a student. Here's what you need to learn. Here are 5 different ways I've set up that you can learn it. So how are we kind of creating different ways for our students to engage in that learning as well? Or maybe even to how to show their learning. So again, to kind of talk about this in the Padlet context, if you're new-ish to Padlet, a couple of the tools we've used today are all in Padlets. Something that allows you to do is either explore those resources like you saw today. Where are we? You could explore resources, put together a resource board for students to kind of explore. but it also allows students to come in and post something. So when we had this kind of warm opener at the beginning, if you were here, sorry, I'm looking for a page. There we go. This warm opener at the beginning where I invited folks to come in and create a post. You can customize, or students can choose how they're actually showing their thinking and learning in Padlet. So one other form of choice is really giving them that space. Are they going to type something out? Are they going to use their voice? Are they going to put together some type of different visual narrative for you to show their learning and understanding of the content? And all of that works within kind of Padlet and the way that it's set up too. Again, though, I recognize that we are in a, this Monday we have, questions. I'm gonna grab these questions in a second. Thank you. I will check in that chat. I also recognize that you all are some of the experts here. And so you are the experts in your own field. You're the experts in kind of working with your students and your community, wherever that is in the world. And so I'm curious, what do you all do to kind of create that connection, to create that engagement, create that choice? And so I have a post here. You're welcome to, if you're feeling so inclined and you're like, oh, I have some awesome ideas to share with others. I'm going to add this into the chat as well. And then let me check in those questions here. So do you do to promote these in your teaching and learning space? Thank you. And then I'm going to take a moment to check the chat, but I'm again inviting you, if you are in the space of like, oh, I want to share how I do connection, engagement, and choice with my students, please add some ideas to our kind of our joint board here. And I want to address what I'm seeing in the chat as well. And thank you for that accessibility question as well. I just added a resource into the chat about that. I'm also going to add that into the kind of resource takeaways. This is great. Thank you for having all these questions. Accessibility, add to resources. I just added that into the chat, Erica and Corey. And Brielle, I just saw you come off of mute. Did you want to ask a question?
I'm so sorry. My headphones did that automatically when I took them out of my ear. I apologize.
No. I want to make sure, please, you're invited. I don't want it to be only my voice. Anybody who'd like to ask or say a thing, please do. Yeah, I just added this link into the chat about accessibility because I think it's a critical piece here for sure with Padlet. I want to share that the boards, these ones that are kind of laid out in this structure that are a lot more organized, those are highly accessible format. I just added that link into the chat for that. That is something that will work for students with any kind of levels of like visual needs for sure. Things can be read out. It will work with kind of any existing built-in browser based or other based kind of tool for listening for the text to speech, et cetera, or speech to text. With Sandbox, with the whiteboards, that is a different story. I don't fully understand the mechanics behind it, but I know that it's much more challenging to kind of build an accessible piece with more of a free-form space. So I want to make sure I name that as well. And maybe actually, let me showcase one more thing for Erica and Corey. One of the things you can do, or again, to kind of highlight the accessibility piece, is students can create a post and they can, with all tools, they can do lots of different things. So they could come in here and they could actually, I could have students do an audio recording, for instance, et cetera. So lots of different ways where they could come in and make sure it's accessible. I know it is about time here, so let me re-add the resources into the chat and let you know lots of different kind of other resources here for you to learn more about Padlet. If you have any questions about it too, I will add my direct email into the chat. You can reach out, or our conference organizers can also help with that. And I have a link here if you are kind of curious and want to check it out further. You can create a free account. The only limitation is that there are 3 boards. You max out the number of things you can use, not the features. You just run out of space in your account. But if you got to that point and you wanted to try premium, you can click here and 2 free months of premium to get a sense of what that's like to have infinite boards at your disposal. So thanks so much, everybody. I'll re-add those resources into the chat. It was so great to learn with you all today. Please reach out with any questions that you have.
Larissa, thank you so much for this session. It was really good to see what new features of Padlet exist, and it's one of as one of our participants mentioned, it's really get to learn, great to learn many new features of Padlet. So thank you for sharing. And as Chancellor Gilkerson mentioned in her speech this morning, sometimes it's really easy to get lonely, right, in online classes. So Padlet is kind of like increasing engagement for all of us. So thank you very much for sharing all these features. And everyone, we have another session at in 15 minutes here in this room if you would like to stay, or we have concurrent sessions going on into other rooms too. But if you're going to stay in this room, our next session will be from Dr. Finch. She will talk about coaching as an equity tool, expanding access, voice, and opportunity in education. So she will be in this room, and I see Dr. Finch, you're already here. Thank you for coming. Um, we also have other concurrent sessions, so we hope to see you in 15 minutes.